Hello, and welcome to my new video where we will talk a little bit about general English, teaching general English classes when students learn English just for fun. They don't need to get a job. They don't need to travel anytime soon. They do not have any long-term or short-term goals. They just learn English because they like it. They get pleasure out of it. And that's the reason why we as teachers might find it difficult to identify goals when we learn English just for ourselves. Actually, this video is inspired by a question that one of my teacher learners submitted. So I really want to build a very good habit to establish a new tradition in my groups where I teach teachers, where we talk not only about language learning but also methodology. So I asked my teacher learners to share the questions that present, problems that present most difficulty for them, burning issues that they want to discuss, anything which is related to CPD and methodology that they genuinely are interested to talk about. And this was one of the questions submitted, and I feel like this is a great question, and I am very excited for our talk today. I hope it will not take as much time as the previous video, because that one was like 40 minutes long. For this one, I set a timer for myself, from 15 to 20 minutes. But I don't know how it will go and how it will take us. If you are right now looking at the video and you see that that it's like 40 minutes long, the intention was set. I tried, but oh well. So let's get started. Let's imagine we are teachers, and we have a general English student named Lydia. And Lydia is just the case we need. Lydia studies English just for fun. Oops, sorry. I'm ahead of myself a little bit. Lydia studies English just for fun. She doesn't have any urgent needs to attend to, nothing of this kind. And we, as we progress through the course, we notice that something is off. Lydia's motivation and, this thirst for knowledge kind of declines as we go. And what we start to notice is that Lydia stops seeing her own progress. She becomes demotivated and she kind of loses hope. We notice that the homework that Lydia submits is done carelessly or not done at all whatsoever. It's hard for Lydia to sustain motivation. We also notice that Lydia gives up on tasks easily. So whenever we run a listening activity or a reading activity, Lydia may say things like, oh, it's all background noise to me. This is so difficult. I won't be able to do. I don't understand this word. No, that's too difficult for me at the moment. So she tends to give up. And one more thing is that there is no clear learning outcome, learning goal in sight. And what I think we can do here is ask Lydia some questions, right? And try to really just talk openly to clear the air and ask Lydia, why are you learning English? Yeah. How do you want to use it? In what situations do you see yourself using English? How do you see your perfect self using English? And in case Lydia, provided us with the answers to these questions, that's all good. And we can now, really tailor the course to Lydia's needs. We checked in with her. We realized that something is off. So now we can kind of change our direction a little bit, tweak and modify something. But let's imagine that Lydia answered something along these lines. And Lydia says, I don't know. I just do it for myself. You choose. You are the teacher, you choose. And there is nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong about studying something just for fun. If the student is okay with that, if you are okay with that, that's just perfect. That's a perfect match. You click, good for you, for both of you. But as I mentioned previously, we notice that something is off. right? We notice that, your motivation has declined, your interest has declined. So yeah, we really want to probably ignite and revive Lydia's interest once again in learning English, because she still attends lessons, right? She does it for some reason, right? She continues to do it. She could have given up, right? But she still persists. But why? So we can help Lydia, maybe not with the long-term goals, because at the moment they might seem a bit too distant and too unattainable. Also, I forgot to mention that Lydia is not a high-level student. Lydia is nowhere near B2 or C1. Lydia, let's say, is pre-intermediate, intermediate level, maybe elementary in your case. So Lydia is just starting out on in her learning journey. And maybe if I ask her, Lydia, how do you see your perfect self using English? This might actually be a bad question to ask, because it might feel like it's too far away at the moment. And taking into consideration that Lydia right now is losing hope, maybe that's not the best question at the moment. So let's shift our focus from long-term goals to short-term goals. Where can we get them from? Well, we can create them artificially, so to say. We are teachers and we can help our learners identify them. When we ask them something, they say, I don't know, I just do it for fun, or you choose. We can help our students create them, right? And here we have, once again, another question. So if I help students create those short-term goals and I check in with them, does it mean that everything that I've been studying in the past is no longer relevant? Now I have to change the course completely and do something different, absolutely different. So here we have the question, to use or not to use the coursebook. And I think that we actually do need to use the coursebook in this case. I would probably opt out of using a coursebook if Lydia knew exactly what she wanted, and that would be easier for me, for Lydia, to navigate our learning journey. But since neither me nor Lydia knows where we are headed, we can just take the coursebook as our basis and build our goals on the material that is suggested in the coursebook. Why not? So in this case, I'm all for using the coursebook. Let's do it. And I want to run a little experiment. You can see that this is the outline of the unit, which is called Houses, taking from Outcomes Intermediate. And you see a little overview of everything that's going to be covered. The reason why I picked this unit is because out of everything that I saw there, houses is probably not the most exciting topic to talk about. So I want to take, the most challenging topic and see if we can, do something to bring more life into it. So, yeah, let's just go through everything that's mentioned here. Describing flats, houses, and areas. Okay. Explain how big places are. Maybe not the most exciting topic. Again, it depends on how the topic is presented, but still. Discuss social and economic changes. Well, okay. Compare past and now. All right. Ask about house rules. Well, I don't know. If I were the student, I would probably not be really hyped about houses, but that's just me. I mean, maybe your students love to talk about houses. I'm talking from my own perspective. So here's what I did. I could have, imagined the situation where I ask Lydia all those questions, and here are the potential questions that Lydia may give. But I can, imagine that my husband is this Lydia, and he's also a B1 student. So this, topic and this overview and this, let's say, material, this level is just perfect for him. So I asked him / Lydia, I showed him, right, this overview of the unit and asked him, so how do you feel about this unit? Is there something that you want to learn how to do with regard to housing, so to say? Let me show you what it was like. So I showed him this list, him / Lydia, right? And I asked him this question: what topics related to housing would you be interested, there is a typo, to discuss? And here is the answers that he gave. He said he would be interested in talking about renting an apartment because this is something that might come in handy in case he needs to travel somewhere. Buying a flat because he's interested in, talking about property, real estate, and all that jazz. Increase in prices. Okay, that's a very burning issue these days. And mortgage. Okay, mortgage. I don't know why he picked mortgage, but still. But let's imagine this is the answers that we got from Lydia. Okay, now what do we do next? We try and build connections with what the course book suggests and with what Lydia told us. And here is how I see it. Let's start with renting a flat. So whenever we rent an apartment, definitely we go through a list of different flats. Let's say we go to Airbnb and we need to choose a place to stay for a couple of weeks or maybe a month. So here we can change really the conditions, right? And here we will inevitably talk about the types of flats, how types of areas, houses, everything that the course book suggests, but we change it slightly in order to make it more relevant and interesting for our Lydia. And there is one more thing, which is house rules. Of course, when you are renting an apartment, there are lots and lots of house rules that you have to follow, and they may vary from service to service, depending on where you are renting this place from, or from country to country. Really, it depends. And there is a plethora of opportunities for discussion. When we move on, we can think about buying a flat. Again, here is, I can see a perfect opportunity for recycling here. Types of flats once again. And also there is one more thing, explain how big places are. So maybe we can think about different types of places depending on how big they are. For example, what kind of place would you buy in different countries? How, let's say, an apartment in New York would be different from a villa in Bali. Probably a villa would be more like, for this sum of money that we have, we can probably buy a more spacious apartment on Bali rather than, in New York, we would probably only have an opportunity to buy a cramped space in the suburbs, something of this sort. So I'm really just, inventing it as we go. And also always talking to Lydia about what things she would like to talk about, but still using the course book as our basis. Okay, increase in prices, that's obvious. Economic changes, of course. Here, this is a great opportunity to practice comparing past and now, right? How prices were different in the past and how they have soared in the recent present, right, in the recent times, and how they're likely to change in the future. By the way, I looked back and I flipped through the course book, and future has already been introduced, so we can revise future here. And also I looked back and I saw that the previous unit, which was unit 6, this is unit 9. The previous one was about buying and selling. So they introduced such phrases as, talking about prices, like it is twice as much as, there were some sentence frames. So we can take them and use them not to talk about shopping, but to talk about buying property. What's not to like? Maybe we can, buying property, increase in prices. Yeah, how prices have changed. Okay, and mortgage, economic changes, and also social changes, right? Maybe I think about maybe a task-based lesson where we have an opinion gap with Lydia, and we think about some, controversial statements, and I ask Lydia to share how far she agrees with something. Maybe I can, write some statements and ask Lydia to share her opinion on whether people, like everyone by the age of 30 has to, have mortgage or something of this sort. Or maybe you have to avoid taking a mortgage at all costs, right? So here, yeah, again, there is room for debate, right? Heated debate about mortgage, something that Lydia might like. And before I teach this class, of course, I'm going to, not the class, the unit, I can show Lydia the plan that I've come up with, and I can ask Lydia, how do you feel about talking, discussing that? Would you be interested in learning how to do it in English? Something, once again, to spark Lydia's interest. Okay, moving on. Now, we have this goal, well, maybe different goals within this unit. And now we need to think about how we can achieve it. what you need to do next is, put on your, I don't know, put on your detective glasses, or, putting on your detective hat, whatever it is. So you are not a teacher, you are a detective now, or maybe even better, a doctor who need to diagnose which which specific grammar, vocabulary, functional language, skills, and concepts you need to teach in order to achieve this goal. So, okay, you're not a doctor, you're not a detective, you're a doctor. I am changing my mind right now. Yeah, so you need to diagnose, like Dr. House, okay? All right, now, after we are done with this, breakdown, we broke everything down into smaller parts, actionable steps that we can take. We once again can present it to Lydia and say, yeah, this is what I've come up with. How do you feel about that? Is there anything that you want to add or change or modify? How do you feel about that? Cool. Now, how do we know that we have achieved the goal that we have set for ourselves? Again, everything that I mentioned here is also important, because our case is that we teach general English. We want to specify it as much as we can, and we also want to bring Lydia's motivation back, right? So everything that I mentioned here in terms of evaluation and assessment is really relevant to keeping Lydia interested in the learning journey. Okay. And the first thing that really comes to my mind is talking to Lydia about what progress is to Lydia, because maybe in this particular moment, we realize that Lydia has really high expectations, and with the course that we are now teaching, we can't really meet them. Maybe she wants, basically just your expectations are too high. We can openly talk about it and say, well, maybe we can lower the bar a little bit and see what manageable goal we can, or maybe like what manageable steps we can take in order to see progress. We can also create a roadmap, so it gives us a sense of direction, and it's clear and visible where we started and where we are headed. So we have point A and we have point B. The thing I'm mentioning this is that when you teach general English, usually, like your one-to-one classes, they are not limited. There are no institutional constraints, so to say. There is no time or date by which you have to finish the course, or like there is no specific time when you have to finish the course book or when you have to finish the unit. So it might feel like this is an endless journey and I will never be able to master language. We have point A, and where is point B? It's nowhere. We don't know where we stop learning because we are just constantly learning. I do it just for fun. There is no, let's say, milestone to celebrate at the very end. We can create those milestones artificially by introducing roadmaps. And I want to give a huge shout out to Victoria, your English journal, for this brilliant idea. This is something that I use with my used with my asynchronous students. You can see here a roadmap which I designed for 1 week. So instead of just sending my students a bulk of tasks, just bombarding her with tasks, I created a roadmap so she knows what she has to do on September the 26th and what I want her to do by the end of the week. So you can see that she has some days to rest, right? Just catching up. Maybe she didn't have time to do it on September 26th. Maybe she can catch up. So it can take any shape and form as you want. So Victoria, I borrowed this idea from Victoria, and she talks about treasure maps that she designed with her students. What else? Keeping a logbook and reflecting. Yeah, we kind of all know the importance of that. And for reflection, I suggest these questions that, well, when we think about reflection, we generally think about like reflecting at the end of the unit, at the end of something big, right? At the end of a journey, right? I suggest, again, if we see that something is off and Lydia is, we're losing contact with Lydia, so to say. We want to refresh it once again and become closer to Lydia, to more frequently check in with her, how she's feeling, how she's doing. So maybe introducing reflection at the end of every lesson, at the end of each week. Why not? Let's have a look at some questions. Lydia, what do you think about the choices and goals for this week? How did you progress towards your goals? Not at the end of the unit, but like as we go. What actionable steps did you take? Because when Lydia looks back at everything she's done in a week, in a month, she'll be like, wow, how great is that? I've done so much. What were some of the wins for the week? And this is linked to the first point. What is progress, right? So they have to match, they have to align with each other. So those wins have to fall into the category of Lydia's progress. So we also need to notice and celebrate those. What are some ways you can keep on working on your development of these goals? So basically the action step, because we want to ignite, spark interest once again. So we are not only talking about the things we have accomplished, but the things that we also want to do in the future, because this will ideally help us stay motivated. Moving on. Oh, testing. One more thing I forgot to mention. Testing. And by testing here, I do not mean formal assessment like writing tests or something of these sorts, like, or maybe assigning a test as homework. No, not really. A test can be just a final big task. For example, if we talk about that housing unit and renting an apartment, your test could actually be like, Lydia, please go to Airbnb app, look through different rooms, apartments, places that you want to rent, write a message, talk to the landlord. You as teacher, you play the role of the landlord, maybe report back on what apartments you chose, why you did that. So here Lydia can once again talk about the types, describe how big the place is. Then we can role play the conversation with the landlord and maybe talk about, summarizing problems, right? Something is not working, something you need to be changed, or you're not happy with the apartment and you want to move out. So this could be a final big test. So after Lydia has gained knowledge, we can test it. Not necessarily like writing something, right? Doing multiple choice. Okay. And I would like to finish off with one quote. I'm sorry, I will have to move my face a bit. Motivation is a personal and internal feeling, right? And we as teachers, we kind of have an external effect on this internal feeling, right? We want just to help. But still, if the person has lost their motivation, there is probably little to nothing that we can do. We can try, but once again, it's personal and it's internal. The feeling arises from needs and wants. At the moment, we know that Lydia, once again, she doesn't have any urgent needs to attend to. She wants, again, we're not really sure. I mean, she attends classes, right? But do we see that Lydia actually wants to learn a language? Well, she just attends classes, so she is present, but not entirely. And human needs are unlimited. Fulfillment of one set of needs gives rise to other needs. So the main idea of my video, I guess, is that what we're trying to do by breaking it all down and specifying as much as we can is really, creating this domino effect. First step, something that will drive other needs to appear. So if we Lydia that right now does not have any needs, let's create them artificially. Let's create those short-term goals. Let's achieve them. And once we achieve them, maybe it will give rise to other needs that Lydia has. And in this case, she can help us with those. And therefore, motivation is a continuous process. So it's always about, this domino effect. And we really need to make the first step, to push it, to give a little nudge to Lydia, so to say. There are a couple of other things that I failed to mention. So at the very beginning, when we looked at the profile of Lydia, I mentioned that Lydia can't see progress, and we touched upon that a little bit. We talked about sustaining motivation through identifying a learning goal, what I failed to mention is homework done carelessly. Well, in this case, the solution that I see here is either not give any homework at all, but talk to Lydia and ask her if she's okay with that. Maybe she doesn't want to do anything at the moment, and that's fine. Maybe some other thing that she prioritizes at the moment are of paramount importance to her, and that's not English, which is okay. So in this case, we just talk to Lydia and say, well, in this case, our progress is going to be slow. If you're fine, okay, that's perfect. That's all right. We're on the same page. Or maybe Lydia doesn't like the type of homework that we give her, so maybe we can give her a choice of things that she can do. Okay, Lydia, you can either do a revision activity, and this is how how you can do it, or maybe you can do a creative task and write something. You can do some exercises from the course book and do some controlled practice activities, or maybe you can record a voice message to me. What do you choose? So we can, give Lydia an opportunity to take ownership of the process, because if you are in charge of something, I guess it makes you feel more motivated to study, and you kind of start to be in control of your own actions and your learning. That's it. And Lydia gives up on tasks easily. The first thing that comes to my mind in this case is probably Lydia has low self-efficacy. So she does not believe in herself when it comes to completing the task, right? The things that I mentioned, like, oh, it's all background noise to me. I don't understand this. It's too difficult. What we can do here is, like, when we approach the task, there are two outcomes, so to say. We either successfully complete the task or we fail. So it's all about success or failure. The more experience with success Lydia has, the more likely she will be, more confident in herself whenever she has to do another task, a similar task, or maybe a different one, something that she has never done before. So what we need to do is to probably grade the task down a little bit, scaffold and help Lydia so that she has more experience with success. Also, I think what might help us is talking about the nature of the task, because when we do all this scaffolding, we do, you have this prediction stage of the lesson. We have, setting the context, this leading, we pre-teach vocabulary. All these actions that we take and steps that we take within the lesson are noticeable for us, teachers only. Students sometimes don't even notice that there are some stages of these lessons, so they don't really know why we are asking them to predict something before they read or they listen. So talking about why we do it can actually help. For example, you do all this scaffolding, and after you are done, you can ask Lydia, okay, Lydia, what have we just done? Lydia lists everything you've done. And then you ask her, okay, Lydia, imagine two scenarios. You complete the task without all the prior stages that we've taken, and with everything that you know now, some blocking vocabulary. You already have an idea of what the text might be about. How does it increase the likelihood of you completing the task successfully? So would it change anything? Does it change the way you approach the task? Do you now feel more confident? And really making Lydia reflect on the way she learns and the way she acquires information and studies and completes the task can actually encourage Lydia to be more mindful of herself as a learner. She will better understand her needs as a learner, what works for her and what doesn't. In turn, it improves learner autonomy. And next time, I was talking about domino effect. Now that Lydia knows what works for her and what doesn't, she will be more motivated to complete the task, more interested in the outcome, right? Is there anything else that we can do about it? Yeah, I guess it all boils down to, it's hard to give one general piece of advice. I guess that would be it. But again, we need to, analyze each and every case individually and look what the problem is with your particular student, where the problem might lie. So yeah, I hope with this video I've given some guidelines or where to look at if you need to kind of spark interest in the learning journey once again, or maybe inspired you to check in with your students and ask if everything is okay and if they're happy with the lessons. So I hope it's been helpful. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next videos.